There is an argument about the accuser of the brethren that is so prevalent amongst charismatics. And if you do hold me accountable, you are just like the accuser here in Zechariah 3 and in Revelation.
Satan's most effective weapon is accusation.
The accuser of their brethren, the spirit of accusation, or they're offended and they carry an offense and they're divisive to the body. That is language that's used to disqualify people who don't have platforms from sharing.
Particularly in the Michael Brown situation, there was a letter by Josh.
The Dear Missionaries?
Yeah, the Dear Missionaries one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, do you want to read that, at least the relevant portion that we were talking about?
Sure. It's not very long. Dear Missionaries, we're so sad that you've had to hear of this current situation from sources other than ourselves. So this is from...
go ahead.
From Director Josh Peters from Fire International. So this is shortly after the Roy's report came out, that they issued this statement. We've been in prayer regarding the situation since our first hearing of it, the allegations back on October 29th. We stand with Dr. Brown in his statement. Please read this carefully. We feel for the one wounded through the experience. We are sorry she's carried the hurt for years. Our desire is for true healing. We skip ahead. Okay. The Roy's report accomplishes nothing. It does not hold Dr. Brown accountable. It does not bring healing to the wounded. It only spreads division, anger, and hurt, and ruined reputations. The Roy's report's goal is not birthed out of a biblical foundation. Even if all of the allegations in every report listed on their website are true, the foundation is birthed out of a wrong spirit. Their desire is not healing, nor reconciliation, nor restoration, but to destroy and humiliate. They are in agreement with the accuser of the brethren.
All right. So, Jeff, what's your first thoughts about that?
Well, I responded pretty strongly to a similar sentiment from Sean Foyt this week, which I felt was particularly out of line, to essentially say that everybody that comes out is partnering with either the accuser of their brethren, the spirit of accusation, or they're offended and they carry an offense and they're divisive to the body. That is language that's used to disqualify people who don't have platforms from sharing. It's a way to try to dissuade them from sharing what they've experienced. And the reason is because, well, you're bringing division to the body. And if you kind of draw that out to its final conclusion, how are they bringing division to the body? Well, the people that have influence are being questioned. So that brings division to the body. And I would say that is a gross misstatement and lacks any significant revelation of the heart of Jesus, first and foremost. You know, he is near to the brokenhearted. And instead of trying to disqualify wounded and broken people, I would expect Jesus would be sitting there holding them. And that's what the body should be doing, is those that have been hurt by leaders. We need to be willing to listen to them, even if it's our heroes. And if it's something that you don't want to hear or that's discouraging, you know, that, and I don't know that everything that the Roy's report is doing is perfect. I don't know that every motive that they have is good. I don't know that anybody can speak to the motives of an entire organization with the level of certainty that this letter is issued in. But I would say that it is lacking any kind of compassion or the love of Jesus.
Right. So there is an argument about the accuser of the brethren that is so prevalent amongst charismatics. The accuser of the brethren is Satan, right? That's what the term Satan means. It's sort of a title or job description, accuser. And in Revelation, the accuser of the brethren is cast down. And where is that? Can you look that up for me, Jeff? In Revelation,
Sure.
where
Yep.
the accuser of the brethren is cast down. We're doing our research as we're doing the podcast. So the accuser of the brethren is this title for Satan, and charismatics use that and weaponize accuser. Do you have the
I got it.
passage right there?
Yep. It's Revelation 12. In verses 7 to 9, it describes the war in heaven with Michael and his angels. And then verses 10 and 11, I heard a loud voice in heaven say, now have come the salvation and the power of the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Messiah, for the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. They had triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death.
Yeah. And so then they will take that passage and then they will couple it with Zechariah 3. Verse 1, then he showed me Joshua, the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to accuse him. And the Lord said to Satan, the Lord rebuke you, O Satan. The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is not this a brand plucked from the fire? Now Joshua was standing before the angel, clothed with filthy garments, and the angel said to those who were standing before him, remove the filthy garments from him. And to him he said, behold, I have taken your iniquity from you, and I will clothe you with pure vestments. And I said, let them put a clean turban on his head. So they put a clean turban on his head and clothed him with garments, and the angel of the Lord was standing by. And so then, there's this whole sort of restoration of Joshua the high priest, and he stands. Some people have said that he stands as a type of Christ, and I say no, he's not a type of Christ in there. He is a type of Israel and God's people, and Christ is not standing accused with filthy garments and because of his own sin. Christ is sinless. So who's he talking about? He's talking about us. So, but that's neither here nor there. What happens is I have heard Michael Freeland Miller from Upper Room use this passage, and I actually have a video clip of him saying that I'll probably insert here in editing.
If you agree with an accusation, you end up in condemnation. If someone comes and tells you something about me, let's just say me, I'm a public figure, pastor. If someone comes and says an accusation about me and you agree with that, then you will shut your heart off towards me as a leader. And so the goal to accuse leaders specifically is for us to agree so that we can shut off, condemn, and no longer be led by that person that God has ordained to lead. And I'm not saying that I'm using that, I don't know if that analogy may fall short, but just as your pastor, I think the enemy attempts to accuse me. We looked last week at Zechariah 3.
Also, Mike Bickle used this passage in one of his last sermons from Forerunner Church. As he knew he was being accused, he brought out this passage.
The Lord only spoke the Hephzibah passage one time supernaturally. He only spoke about Bozrah and Jesus is in red one time. But he spoke Zechariah 3 and 4 7 or 8 times. Zechariah 3 and 4, this ability to overcome the spirit of accusation and walk in confidence and love that covers a multitude of sins and all of these things that are implied in this chapter. We need to impart and not impart, but inspire and equip people. There's going to be a massive revival in the Middle East. Satan's most effective weapon is accusation. The end-time church is going to overcome these accusations, but the accusations are real. The word of my testimony is what my narrative is before God. That's my testimony. what I think God says and sees when he looks at my life. And that's the area that so many are not established in. They've got to get the divine narrative, but it's not enough for me to see who I am and to say what God says about me and nothing more and nothing less. I got to say what God says about you, nothing more, nothing less.
And so the idea is that there is this divine narrative of the life of leaders. And if people do not accept this divine narrative, the narrative of grace and mercy, that they're not, ignore the past, forget about anything I did, just remember that God totally wiped it away. And what does that mean? I am not to be held accountable for anything that I did. And if you do hold me accountable, you are just like the accuser here in Zechariah 3 and in Revelation. And you are partnering with the accuser. That's the devil. This is the voice of Satan that is accusing me right now. And what you need to do is shut up. But that flies right in the face of 1 Timothy 5:20. Those elders who continue in sin, you are to rebuke publicly so that all may see and tremble. Also, you have to ask the question, when Jesus spoke to the churches in Revelation 2 and 3, he accused all of them, almost all of them, of some pretty big time sins. Was Jesus partnering with the accuser? When Paul is writing in 1 Corinthians that the sexually immoral brother that is living in sin amongst you, well, he said he was sorry, like he prayed a private prayer of forgiveness. Right. He's like, no, kick the dude out, kick him out. Purge the filth from amongst you, right?
And there's other verses that speak of similar sentiment in Titus. I think it's Titus 3. Reject a factious or divisive man after a second and third rebuke. There are places scripturally that we are encouraged to actually put people out, and in doing so, it is an escalation. You see the escalation of unrepentance. So the factious or divisive person, after you rebuke them, you address it on multiple occasions. Matthew 18, the one that often gets thrown around and used to try to disqualify people. And in fact, I've even heard that in the last couple of weeks in a private situation. Somebody's, well, they didn't Matthew 18. They didn't bring it to me first. And I got involved because the person that had the initial issue did actually bring it to the person first, but it was rejected. Well, what does Matthew 18 say? If they don't receive it, go to someone else. Bring another person with you. And it's, the language often gets used to try to shut down critical speech or even just exposing sin and bad behaviors and things that people haven't wanted to talk about. And I think that we need to get to this place where we speak the truth in love. And the truth is not afraid of confronting things. And you have to be loving. A lot of times we emphasize one or the other. We either loving at the expense of truth and we'll never say something bad about somebody, or we just like to say the true thing so much and, ha ha ha, I'm going to get you now. And there's no love in it. So there is balance to it. We need to have a heart of love, even in sharing things that are uncomfortable to address and confront.
I hope you enjoyed that clip of the Minor Prophets podcast. If you'd like to see full episodes, they're right over here. And if you'd like to see more clips, right over here. And I'll see you in the next video.